everybody, we're here. New episode, the show that has yet to be named, review edition. We're reviewing Shang-Chi, as he calls himself in the movie. Let's get the name right.
Sean. It's Sean.
Sean C.
Sean. I'm Sean Cena. No.
Would you imagine? Okay, anyway, so we're gonna be we'll give you a spoiler for your review quick. Putty also has a review on his channel. If you want to see that, I'll put that in the link in this. So yeah. He's basically here for me to bounce ideas off, because why not? You know, JD hasn't seen the movie. Usually I do it with him, but you know, I got Putty here. He's like he's almost as good.
Wow.
He's twice as good.
Wait, is that a joke on my size?
No, he's not. Peter Parker's here. His stuff will be in the thing below.
Yes, below.
So we'll just go over this movie quick. Putty, you want to give them a brief synopsis of the movie?
Sure. Guy knows martial arts. He fights with martial arts like Bruce Lee. He isn't Bruce Lee, but he fights like martial arts. Goes against
he fights like martial arts.
Yes,
all right, I'm not done.
I'm done. I'm not done. Okay. Then he fights a guy. They finally at least did a little bit better, though. We're not even going to get into that into spoiler. But he fights his dad, which is not his dad. Which you know me. It's a whole. Anyway, his dad and him have argument. It's family stuff. It's just family crap. And then he becomes uber like a Super Saiyan.
Okay, so basically this is about the superhero Shang-Chi and how he left his like family in China to come to North America, and he has to go back. People are looking for him from his father's like team, and he gets caught up in all this mess, and then he discovers his powers and blah blah blah. So okay, let's, without spoilers, I feel like, so a lot of people really like this, and I'm okay with it because I don't think it's a bad movie. I enjoyed it. I think it's a well-made Marvel movie. It definitely hits most of the points. My thing is, it as different as it is, like it brings this whole Chinese like element to it. With it kind of has that mystical kung fu type stuff, fantasy, like Crouching Tiger type of stuff, and it looks really nice. It's very influenced by Chinese cinema and Chinese fantasy kung fu style movies,
which makes sense,
but it's so paint by numbers Marvel. It's not as cookie cutter as most of the movies are in delivering the story, I will give it that, but it follows the same exact formula as every other movie. Like it flows like just like all the other Marvel movies, and I kind of didn't like that. I really went into this like, you knew this. This is probably my most anticipated movie of all the superhero movies coming out. Well, now it's Spider-Man because I've seen this, and you know, but I won't say I was disappointed, but I expected it to be a lot more different than it was.
Well, here's my thing. We are saturated with Marvel movies. And it's definitely going to be hard when you're keeping something under the belt of PG-13, not to be under the same beat. You know, again, when it comes to like what we've had as solid movies, we've had probably the best of Marvel until we get something again like Endgame where they all culminate together. They have to introduce these stories. Unfortunately, for some people, characters like Black Widow, that should have been done years back. That's the reason why I feel that movie flopped so badly.
Yeah.
And this one, here's the thing with this, I enjoyed it. I definitely won't say it's like the best Marvel movie out there. It definitely, in my eyes, is way better than Black Widow. But
okay, that's
not saying much, but still. But my point the whole thing is I kind of knew, because the thing is I didn't know all about him. All I knew was the Mandarin and that whole plot line. But that was because of a different character, you know what I mean? And we all know what that is. And if you don't know, look it up. But anyway, my point the whole thing is so when I did research, I was expecting a lot of stuff they did. Of course, they changed it, and they always do that with Marvel. But even the comic book is rooted in old martial arts movies. Literally it's old martial arts movies. So I was kind of expecting them going in, and I was happy. Like the bus scene itself was an amazing scene in my eyes. I don't know how you felt about it, but that was just a really fun scene.
I think the action is handled very well.
Mm-hmm.
The visuals of how they capture those things though, I didn't really like. It wasn't like John Wickish. Does that make sense? Like it
Yeah, I
wasn't
agree.
like a real straight up action movie would catch all of those hits, or like The Raid or something. It was very Marvel-y. But
Oh
I
yeah.
think the fighting itself looked really good. It was a little bit overly CGI, and some of the CGI was pretty bad throughout this movie, especially in the final fight. Some of that CGI was awful.
I did like some of when they first entered. Outside of, I'll admit, there's a certain character that is appealing to kids, and there's definitely it's basically their new Baby Yoda. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of it is handled well.
yeah.
It's not a bad movie. It's just my biggest gripe with this movie is everyone keeps talking about how different it is, but I feel like nobody watched the same movie because it's so similar. It's almost like, no, this is like not a spoiler, but I mean, take it how you want. The the way that Black Panther is built up, not the character, the movie, the beats of the movie, the way it builds up, and the way that their city is hidden, I
Mhm.
was like, we're doing this again. We're doing this exact same thing again. Like no one has discovered this massive city that's just in the middle of a forest.
Well,
Like,
like I said, there's a lot of those times because it's going to be dealt with in Eternals too. Like, where the heck were they the whole time?
yeah,
And so, here's my thing. I when I went into this, I have to look at it as there's nothing really going to be as good as the other Marvel movies. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. When it comes to like Winter Soldier, even Civil War, any of those movies, I feel like that they really hit their stride and being really big. And the only time we're going to get that again is going to be when either they introduce the X-Men characters or when they go into a next end game, as far as like an Avengers and
yeah,
ensemble.
they need to really push out of it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But me honestly, the biggest one thing for me was actually the two comedic actors in this role. And I won't say the second one because I feel like I should save that for spoilers.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Awkwafina, not the drink, by the way, the actual actress, Awkwafina was hilarious in my eyes in this movie. She was actually what the part I wasn't expecting to be enjoyable. And the thing is I don't know if you enjoyed it as much as I did with her, but I felt like her parts in there where she carried the comedy. Like it could, she's not a Marvel character actually. She's a character that was built for this movie. But I'm thoroughly happy they did because
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think this movie would be as good if they didn't have
I
her in
think
there.
she really helps to carry the movie and lighten the tone
Mm-hmm.
throughout, because it's not that it deals with a really dark subject in like necessarily, but it's just everything is handled in a really like
It takes it too
yeah,
seriously.
it's everything is like just dragged down kind of by this vibe, and then she lightens it. I agree, but I also have a gripe with it too, not necessarily with her, because she, like, when I talk to people about it, I'm a fan of Awkwafina. She's Aquafining. That's what she does. She's
Yeah,
playing the same character she
of
always does,
course.
and she does it really well. She's been good for the last few movies, like, but this is her comedic character. Like,
Yeah.
we've seen her do break out of that role and do really serious dramatic stuff, but this in this movie is just her doing her typical thing. But my argument is, why is she there? Why does she keep, every time that she could get left behind and they're like, okay, you need to go home now? No, they keep bringing her,
Yeah,
and it doesn't make any sense for the story.
that's why I said she was shoehorned. I said she
Yeah,
was a
she
shoehorned
is. She
comedy. She's
is.
not like her character is not even a actual physical character. She's the new Agent Coulson, but not even like what's his name from the Ant-Man movies? What's his name? That was it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
uh, but,
It's
but he was kind of like
yeah.
him. That's kind of why she's in here. He was never a comic book character either, and was just kind of put in there, which they do a lot. They try to bring in characters that are very lovable, I guess you could say, are very enjoyable, and they just try to put them in there somehow. And that's
It's
what
supposed to
Aquafina
be
is.
the you in the movie. Like, it's, you're supposed to live through that person.
Exactly.
I mean, there are a lot of good points in it. I think Aquafina is a huge plus. I think a lot of the acting is really well done, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Like throughout, it visually has some really great moments, especially when they lean into the whole Chinese martial arts like type of Chinese filmmaking style. Very bright and like colorful. Like I really liked a lot of that stuff. It's not a perfect movie. What would you rate it out of 10?
Well, see, the thing is, I already did my rating, but the thing is I've decided I have to lower my stuff. I put it between a 7 or 8, just but that's actually in the high point. If I was to actually give it based on Marvel movies, it would probably hit a 5 or 6, and that's because when you're just comparing between Marvel movies, because again, there's a lot of really bad movies out there, so I don't want this movie to feel like it's been downgraded to be like really really horrible. But in a Marvel world, it's a 5 or 6. In a movie world, I'd give it a 7 or 8.
Yeah, I would say I'm around like a 7.6 out of 10. I would say I'm comfortable there. It slots in somewhere for me, which our ratings are different for movies, but I'd say it
Yeah,
slots in around Doctor Strange.
I
It's an
still
enjoy.
feel. Yeah, I still
Doctor
feel.
Strange is an enjoyable movie. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but it's very mismanaged when you go back and rewatch it.
True. I guess the reason I wouldn't put I wouldn't put it even as high as Doctor Strange is because of the family issue thing. And again, when we get to the spoilers, there's also the other thing that I'm happy they fixed, but there's still problems that were shoehorned. And of course, the way they did it, I'm happy. I'm content, but I'm not like excited. Like I feel like a lot of things are already dead in the water and ruined, so there's no way to really go back and fix it, especially since Robert Downey Jr. is not involved anymore. But other than that, yeah, it's still they did at least a decent job compared to what they did in another movie. That's all I'm
Yeah,
gonna say.
that's fair. Anyways, guys, if you came just for the spoiler-free review, that's it. We're gonna jump into spoilers now, right now. Okay, so um, Trevor Slattery, that's his
I
name, right?
the wait, the plays the main actor, the first actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his
No,
name is.
well, Ben Kingsley, but he plays
Oh yeah,
the
yeah. Ben
Mandarin,
Kingsley.
and the
Yeah,
Mandarin's guy's name is Trevor Slattery, I believe.
yeah, it is Trevor Slaughter. I forgot because it's not
He's really
one
good
of
in this movie,
very
but
funny.
I think when you take away Awkwafina and him from the movie, none of the comedy works. Every
No,
other element of comedy in this movie is so bad when you remove those two people that it's almost like, what movie am I watching?
well, that's like the whole Milton thing. The chemistry between Sir Ben Kingsley as Trevor and Milton was hilarious. But like you said, you take that out because see, here's the thing. And I know we're eventually going to get to the one thing I want to discuss and everything. But as far as the comedic timing, that's the reason why even with Aquafina there, like like a prime example is this. I had a I saw a moment. I go, oh, how sweet when the whole thing when Milton goes over to Ben Kingsley and he's like, I'm acting, and I kind of got a little chuckle. I was like, okay, that's funny. And then he did the play dead. That's what made me laugh. But my whole point to it is you're right. You could tell those were shoehorned in. Like it wasn't like Happy that's involved with Spider-Man, which is Happy again is also always a shoehorned character. Really, to be honest with you, a lot of the Marvel characters I noticed that deal with comedy are always used ones that are usually shoehorned into the movies because outside of Deadpool, you really don't have that many
Well,
comedic characters.
I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
comedic characters, I fully agree with you,
Yeah.
100%. But I think in terms of Marvel people, Tom Holland does well carrying the comedy.
Yeah,
Um,
he's the other exception.
Iron
Sorry,
Man
him
does
and
pretty
Deadpool.
well. Thor guy does pretty well carrying comedy. There's characters that do it well in their own as the main people. Where this
Yeah,
movie, it kind of felt like nobody could do the comedy at all throughout the whole movie except the two shoehorn characters, which is the worst possible scenario. Well, Ant-Man, right? That's another one.
yeah,
He can carry his
yeah.
own comedy.
I forgot about that. Well, that's also because Paul Rudd is a comedian. See, here's the thing, but with Chris Hemsworth, I actually did not expect the comedy situation, so I have to give it up for that. They have been doing better because you got to think in the beginning we didn't have it, and even with Chris Hemsworth as Thor, there was no comedic until Thor Ragnarok. So
I
for
think
me,
it's
it's not.
Taika Waititi that
That's what
gave
I
the
was going to say.
comedy.
Yeah, that's what I want to give the praise to because I think Taika Waititi knew how to use Chris Hemsworth as Thor to make it funny. If Taika Waititi wasn't there, honestly, I don't think Thor would have been as funny. But at the same time, I think what happened in my eyes is that Taika Waititi, because you got to remember, him and Korg in Infinity War are still together, so that still has the influence of Taika Waititi. Like I don't know if anybody's seen it, but they did the Free Guy trailer where they had Deadpool and Taika Waititi as Korg in there, and that is a hilarious little
Well,
scene.
apparently Korg has a major role in the new Thor movie.
I can't wait, and that's what they need. You know what I mean? He knows what he's doing when it comes to comedy, and they
And
need that kind of.
Meeks. What's his name? Is that Meeks? Yeah,
It
the
makes
guy.
yeah, it makes he's the one. He's just meat. It's just a bowl of meat and knives and all that. But yeah, so I agree with you. They did shoehorn that in. Again, there were some things I was happy for, and I feel like what's happening now is that we are getting a saturation of Marvel. Um, and the people still want Marvel, like myself, but I have to go in saying we're probably not going to get the best as what we had before. So I kind of have to lower the bar when it goes to even Marvel movies. The
Yeah,
only one I could say is Spider-Man, No Way Home, and that's because they're doing that smart and using the nostalgia feels. But
I think that
I
has
am
a
worried.
different. Spider-Man is different. Spider-Man is like an Avengers movie in the terms of it's a big draw. When
Yeah,
it's like a Superman movie or a Batman movie, it's a big draw. When you say Spider-Man, people are going to show up not caring about oversaturation of Marvel. It's just going to
yeah,
happen. It's like Wolverine, right?
yeah, exactly. Yep,
It's
yep.
you're going to bring that in, and I just would like to see them continue building. Sorry,
Yeah,
but let the directors give them a guideline, but let them make a movie like Thor Ragnarok.
yeah.
It's so different than the other Thor movies. Sure, it does stay formulaic to the Marvel thing, but it's so different than the other ones that you don't care about that. Where you go to watch Shang-Chi and it's literally Black Panther, but with another character, slash, has like a little bit of Ant-Man style in it, like the comedy, and then it also has like Captain Marvel in the way that the character arc goes, where they don't know where they're going really, they don't know what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
it's too similar. That's my biggest problem.
Yeah,
I
I could see it,
it,
but I mean, there's a lot of those in that
it's
way.
still
That's
a
the
good
problem.
movie. It's
Yeah,
not. It's upper mid tier Marvel, or it's not in the bottom of Marvel.
no, no. I'll say this. Here's the thing. I totally agree with you. I'm not ever putting that on the top. It's really like in the middle for me. And I'm going to get into the next part that I want to really badly, but I wanted to state this was that going into Marvel movies, I always had things have to be a certain way because me and you, we always conflict. I'm majorly comparing it to comic books more than anything else. And now I have to go in saying, okay, they've already messed up things. I already know things are going to be different. So I have to go in with another thought of at least hopefully they did it properly. And that's kind of because, for example, me and you've had the conversation about Iron Man 3 and how I feel about that whole situation with, with the Mandarin and so on and so forth. Um, and then of course Sir Big Kingsley, well, he looked like the Mandarin from the comic book. I was excited until we find out he's an actor. Now, here's my thing. I like what they did with the Mandarin in this. They did change a lot. For example, the rings on the arms, and they don't have individual powers between each one. For those that don't know, they actually have their own powers between each ring that do something different: ice, fire, things of that nature.
We don't know that yet.
Well, no, but they don't do it
He
in this
might
movie.
discover it, like his dad might have not known how to use it properly. Continue your
That is
thing. No,
true.
continue your
Okay,
thing.
that makes sense. Actually, I like that you said that because I didn't put that together. Like maybe you're right, maybe because the thing is, as you saw it in there, you saw they did change color when he got his hands on them. So that could be just a
Maybe
sign of
he
oh,
has
they
a
hold on.
special power that can use it or
Yeah.
something.
Well, see, in the comic books, he was never actually had powers, which made me do like that one thing was that he actually was just trained, and they didn't say he had special powers until he got the rings from the Mandarin, and that made me happy because
And I think they had to do this because for him to be relevant in the Marvel universe going forward with all the big threats they're going to have to fight, him having those powers is going to be huge.
yeah, well, see, that's the thing. He would have if they would have going to keep him grounded like he is in the comic books, then they should have introduced him before when they had Black Widow, Hawkeye,
Mm-hmm.
all those grounded characters. Now we're getting into the mystical stuff, especially since I don't know if you guys have been watching it. What If is showing what we're going to foresee a lot in the MCU, no matter if that's not in the MCU. That's kind of giving us a foreshadowing of how chaotic it's going to get, especially with the new Doctor Strange movie next year. So you're right. I agree. He needs those rings in order to give him more of a physical or dominant appearance when it comes to the more mystical and more outer space characters that we're getting
He's
into.
already been, just by having those rings, he automatically got elevated into the high tier of Marvel power characters, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And the only thing is the whole thing with Mandarin was the one thing that made me up, and this made me mad because he has such a close connection to Iron Man. He never even was much in Shang-Chi at all when it comes to the comic books. And he was never his father. Like all that stuff was changed for the movies just so there'd be that family element, which I do agree. I feel like that's one thing they pushed way too much, kind of like the whole Black Panther, I need to take the crown kind of situation. And that's what it felt like. And that did make me mad because that was never something that was big in the comics, but they wanted to stick with the whole family element. So For me, when I ignore the whole family element and just think about him as a Mandarin character, he played it good to me. But the thing is, he had too much heart, and the character of Mandarin doesn't. But when I'm comparing it to Iron Man, the Iron Man Mandarin, I feel much better now. But it's already basically, it's kind of like just having a Joker movie, like, the remember Joker movie with
Yeah,
what's his name? It's like having that, but never having the Joker in with Batman originally. That's what made me mad about the whole situation
I agree.
because he is this Joker. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
So I kind of made it for it.
I think you redeemed both the character of Trevor Slattery and
Mhm.
the character of the Mandarin.
Yep.
However, my gripe is that you already redeemed Trevor Slattery in the
The shorts.
King, the
Yeah.
short.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what's called, The King Has Fallen or something.
It's actually on Disney Plus now. Just look it up. It's actually just put on there because of the Shang-Chi, so it actually connects to it, and
Yeah,
you should go watch it. It's amazing.
but they already redeemed it, and then in this movie they redact that. It's kind of like nothing of that actually happens now because he's not badass. He just became the old guy that he was, and then so you have in Iron Man 3, you have him as the cover up for the other guy, but then in this movie you redeem him just to have him cover up for the other guy, and Tony Leung never his character never admits that he's the Mandarin. He never says the name on purpose. So
Yeah,
it's
he
like
says I'm being called. What's funny is
he's
all
like the
names.
name that they call me. I know.
Yeah,
But it's like it's done in a way that it covers up for the mistakes, but it also doesn't fully redeem it. It redeemed it
no,
in my heart as a comic book person, but it doesn't fully redeem it in terms of the movies. It kind of leaves you like, okay, so then, but what was the other guy, and what was the guy before
yeah.
him, before that guy? That now you're covering up, and for some reason you have him locked in your basement. Like what?
It's one of those things. Like I know they're trying to cover their tracks for one mistake that they made, and now I'm at that point where I'm kind of like, you know what? I love Iron Man and what they did do with him and everything. I can forgive the mistake, but we just have to move on. It's kind of like you already made the screw up and everything. You already lost your Lex Luthor, your Joker, whatever you might want to do this comparison to. So fix it, and that's the reason
Well,
why even with the situation with Spider-Man, I feel like they need to fix
he's
that.
he's let's not get all carried away. The Mandarin is like a L list villain compared to the Joker and Lex Luthor.
Well, no, but I'm saying
I get what you're saying. I
he
get it.
is the arch nemesis to Iron Man in the
Yeah,
comic
but
books, literally. You know what I mean?
he's not. I mean, Iron Man has a few, especially if you go way
Right.
back.
He does, but if you actually look at, he's had way more battles with the Mandarin than anybody else.
I
That's
agree,
why
but
he got that
and then
foothold.
it's kind of like Marvel's really weird with villains, in comparison to DC in terms of the way that they handle them.
Mhm.
Like they're very isolated to universes, but then out of nowhere they just start appearing in other people's comics. Like Shang-Chi, the Mandarin kind of what became in his universe just because it had to happen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird because you had Fing Fang Foom, but then he
Yeah.
ended up
Which I
becoming
thought I
like,
was hoping thing be in here, but it ended up being
yeah,
the
I
dragon
thought that
one.
was going to happen with all
Yeah.
the dragons and stuff. But I mean, big CGI monster battle at the end. It looked absolutely terrible. And I was very surprised because Marvel, outside of like little things in Black Widow, has been super consistent with their visual effects lately.
Yeah.
And to see that, I was like, what the hell happened here? And there's
Well,
some really good stuff in the movie too. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah. Well, like I said, that there was the mess up. Like if you look at Black Panther is a very praised movie, but when you see that final scene with Killmonger and Black Panther, that CGI is
oh,
just
and
way to
it's a conversation I had, I believe, with my brother the other day, and I was like, "This is the argument that you have to think of it like this. I get that that's bad, and I'm not going to forgive it for in any way for this. But that was like 2017 or 2018. This is 2021. How did you screw it up? You knew your mistakes you made, and you made it again. That's like that's a DC move. You knew your mistakes, and you did it again.
I guess, like I said, I can name another one, Taskmaster. I mean, they're continuing to do it. You know what I mean? So, and again, I want to redeem Marvel. I feel like what's happening, and correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Shang-Chi, Black Widow, even the Eternals are all movies that they're just basically shoehorning out there to get ready for Doctor
Yes,
Strange.
they
And the
just
Multiverse of
need to.
Madness.
There's stuff that has to
They're filling
be
in.
there. Black Widow was something that had to be capped off. They felt like they had to do it, and then this is now you need these characters going forward. You need and with Shang-Chi, and then with the Eternals, you need to show them for people to understand what's going to happen. And that's a big issue I have too with that kind of stuff. I mean, this whole phase seems kind of like that. Even Spider-Man is kind of just Spider-Man is being used as like a vessel so that people will go watch it so that they can introduce what's going to happen in Doctor Strange, because that's where everything's going to go.
Yeah. Well, that's also, to be honest with you, even though we do have it, that's literally probably going to be the first time we start connecting the Disney Plus series to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because we haven't had a real connection. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why WandaVision was such a crucial thing to be the first thing, is so that way when they are ready with the Multiverse of Madness, they've already done everything else. They set up everything. People aren't like, I don't understand this. And they use Multiverse and Spider-Man. Everything's been set up. So when she finally comes and they're like, whoa, what's happened to her? You know, which is really funny too. I don't know. Have you seen the newest episodes of Rick and Morty?
Yeah, I saw the whole season.
Okay, so I so badly want them to do what Rick did, the Stan Lee little thing pop up in the corner where he says last issue, like they do in the comic books. It's like, I'm wondering how they're going to do that, because they have to explain WandaVision for people that didn't watch WandaVision that go to see Doctor Strange. But it's going to have to be in there somehow. And so my whole thing is I feel like they're trying to fill in a lot of other stuff. So when they do go to that part, it'll be a little easier to explain her back into the plot line. So my point to the whole thing is I feel like Eternals, Shang-Chi, even Spider-Man, and a little bit Black Widow are all things that they're totally starting to put in there so they can shoehorn a little bit of things here and there, like hints of stuff. And that way, when they finally get to that, they can start bringing in the multiverse, because they're going to really have a huge problem with the multiverse if they don't do things solidify right, because there's going to be so many branches now that there's going to be people that are going that have never seen a few of the movies that are going to get confused, and that's going to push people away. So again, I don't know how they're going to do it, and hopefully they do it right. So I'm giving Shang-Chi, I was giving Shang-Chi a much higher score because it is a good movie. But it's one of those things where I'm dreading the future because of stuff like Eternals and everything else. And I'm hoping they do everything right. Again, I'm excited. I feel like we've definitely gone on a tangent off of Shang-Chi, but I just wanted to say,
I think it relates.
Basically my whole point is just like any other the other phases of Marvel, they whenever they're introducing new characters to make their new Avengers, to make the big end game again, they have to bring in these other characters that may not be crucial right now, but suddenly they're very crucial when it comes to Endgame, as far as visually or as far as some big story element where they may have to go back to, I can't think of the world, but Shang-Chi's, where his mother was born, and they may have to go back there to use those characters, just like it did with all the characters from Doctor Strange, or all, you get what I'm saying?
Just like Black Panther, how they needed all the warriors to fight. Yeah, exactly. I get that.
Yeah. So that's the way I'm looking at with this is, okay, these are just basically the soldiers that we're going to see finally in the next end game. And that's why we need this movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, that's why when I go see these movies, I kind of put that in perspective and say, that's why it's here. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but that's the way I look at it is, these aren't the best ones, but they're here because.
But I just wanted more from this, and I really was hyped up for this because it's a character I don't know that well. It's a character I was excited to see. It had a really good cast, and I just expected more, I guess. And people are praising it, and it's kind of like, are you just praising it because we haven't seen a full Asian cast superhero movie yet? Because
that's what I'm thinking.
And I don't think that's at all the problem with the movie. I think that's the best part of the movie. I just feel like the story is so like dead in the water right from the start because you didn't give it a chance. You said put Marvel formula on it and just people will watch it. And the acting and the fighting couldn't save it, in my opinion. Like I still think my rating is good.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. I look at it this way. This is a side quest. It was a very enjoyable side quest. It wasn't one like those carrier ones that you did with Black Widow. It still was a good side quest that had to do a little bit with the story, but honestly, it's still not the main story. And I feel like we're not going to get into the main story until Spider-Man. Maybe Eternals, but even Eternals, I feel like is going to be a side quest. And I'm looking at this.
I feel like Eternals is going to be the most side quest of all of them. I feel like it's going to have nothing to do with anything happening. All it's going to do is just explain where they have been this whole time and what they're capable of and where they're going to go in the future. I think that's what that movie is about.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a side quest, and when we get to Spider-Man, that we're actually going to get more story as far as what the whole Marvel or MCU, the new MCU phase is going to be all about. That's the way I look at it. So I feel like,
Yeah,
and see, if you noticed, we're going to be still in the same phase. So it feels like they're using Spider-Man as the new Iron Man too. Think about it. Phase one of the MCU had two Iron Man movies in it. Okay, but it looks like they're doing the same thing because the next Spider-Man movie is in this phase, right? It's not in the next phase. Am I
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I
So
mean,
that
I've
means
been
they're
saying
basically
this
making
the whole
Spider-Man
time
one.
that the new main person for us to watch is going to be Spider-Man.
Hmm.
He's
But I
not
feel
going to be
like,
like the leader of the Avengers or anything, but he's going to be the
well,
new main character.
here's my theory on that. I actually think what's going to happen, because we even had talked about in the other video with the Spider-Man, comparing the Spider-Man trailer and everything. Here's my thing. I think Spider-Man is going to be the new Iron Man in that way. But then what's going to happen is I feel like the father figure that Iron Man was will be filled in by Doctor Strange. I feel like that's why they're doing this. Is they're letting Doctor Strange fill in that like fatherly leader type character that I feel like his Benedict Cumberbatch character is going to be the next Iron Man, if that makes sense. So he's going to be the one that kind of leads
Yeah,
more
I
for
think,
it.
but like in terms of Avengers,
Yeah,
I feel like Thor is going to become the main Avenger.
really. So you think
Yeah,
he's going to be a lead? Because I feel like because you know how they use the intelligence of like Iron Man and everything to lead the next Avengers, while they have like the brute strength or the
I know.
American
Okay,
hero.
the leader of the Avengers was Captain America.
Well, no, I get it, but what I'm saying is, think of it this way: Captain America and Thor would be the same, where they're basically like they're good leadership,
Yeah,
but they don't have the intelligence
it's
to back
gonna
it up. It's
it's
more
gonna
of
be
like the
between Thor, Hulk, and
Strange.
Sam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Strange is not really an Avenger in the sense of like he's down for the team. He'll come when they have to save the world, but Strange has bigger things going on. You know what I mean? He
I
has
mean, I
to
guess so.
control so
Yeah.
many things. Like the
So,
Avengers are
so
like a
because see, I
team.
well, you know how you have the two. You have the dynamic of Iron Man and Captain America. So if I was to look at it that way, are you saying that Banner would be Iron Man and Captain America would be Thor? Because
Yeah,
I feel like Thor would fit that whole patriotic way with when it comes to Captain America, while we need the brains and the person that can like take things apart. So but the way it sounds to you, because if you notice too, which we didn't even
Sam
bring
is
this up,
also a really good mechanic,
that is true.
like
That is true.
engineer. I
But I
mean,
gotta
and Bucky is a good person. Like the main four Avengers, I think are going to be those four:
make
Sam,
sense.
Bucky, Thor, and Hulk.
Now let me ask you this: when I saw the post credit scene, I actually had a little bit of brain fart because I was like, wait, when did this take place? Because remember, Banner was permanent Smart Hulk, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like from the comics. But if you watch the end, he's actually Bruce Banner, and I was like, wait, does this mean it takes place before all that stuff? But then I realized he still has the brace or cast on his arm from when he held the gauntlet,
yeah,
the
yeah,
gauntlet.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
which
yeah.
means he's learned to actually make himself regular again, which I don't understand why he didn't decide to stay that way. So I feel like that might be a plot hole they haven't filled in yet. I mean, what did you think about it? Do you think that's
I
not a big
honestly didn't
deal?
even question it until you just said that. I was just kind of like, oh, end credits. I thought it didn't mean anything. Like
But
it
do you see
just,
why I'm questioning? Because
yeah, it kind of felt like a strange end credit scene. But now that you said that, that's probably why, because they want to tell you what happened to that. It was just
I'm
like,
hoping.
look what happened. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure. Because the thing is like Hulk, he had the bandage, but he was literally Hulk the whole time during Endgame. And then we watched this movie, and he's got the same thing on his arm, but now he's Banner, which doesn't. And also, that's another thing that doesn't make sense to me. If Hulk was injured that badly, wouldn't it be worse for Banner when he's in human form?
I don't think so
I
because his healing would be he would still have the healing factor.
I guess so. I guess so.
Okay. Well, anyways, let's end that here
Okay.
before we go too deep into Marvel because this could go forever. Last thing, don't give me a discussion on just tell me, is this movie for the people worth going to watch or should they wait for it at home?
um. Well, I'm gonna put it this way, short as I can. If you're looking for a fun movie to watch, go see it. If you're not really if you're wanting something that's going to put you into the Marvel lore, and but you what you if you want lore, wait. If you don't want lore and you just want to have fun, go see it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It to me, I'll put it the easiest way I can. If you liked Ant-Man or Ant-Man 2, which are completely like contained movies that take place out of the universe and are just kind of have a fun vibe to them, but are a little bit different, this is worth watching. If not, then just wait for it.
But I'm going to say this, John. if they're watching the spoiler video right now with us, they're probably not interested in seeing it.
I mean, but some people might want to watch spoilers and not have gone to watch it, right?
That's true. That's true. I never. I guess maybe again, I'm always in my own head thinking I never want to be spoiled. So maybe for some people, it doesn't.
There's a lot of people that don't even want to watch movies; they just want to watch spoiler things for them.
Believe me, I have a few viewers, and I'm sure he's watching. What's up, fat cat?
Believe me, I have a friend of mine that I could tell you for sure. He doesn't watch any movies ever, but somehow he wants to talk about them with us all the time. And we're like, how do you know this? Because instead of watching the movies, he'll just watch spoiler talk about it. Yeah, I'm like, why would you want to watch spoiler talk about it? Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Let us know if you liked it in the comments, and peace out.
Peace.